Boom. What's up, everybody, man? Thank you for jumping on with us or checking out this episode of Expert Mentors Live, episode 27. And we've got the man, the legend, Jeff Kiani, back in to jump into part two of questions that we've got to be asking and, really focused on improving our skill set. Questions to close, part two. And before we hit record, we were talking, man, there's probably going to be a part three and part four. So we're super excited about that. If you didn't get a chance to go through and see part one, do so. The link is in the Facebook group. It's also in the expertmentors.com tool down in the educational resources. All of the previous 26 episodes are in there, so take advantage of it. And if this is your first time for catching an Expert Mentors Live, man, what this is it's an opportunity for the horsepower that's within our Honey Badger and also the Fast Forward Movement communities to really add back to each other. We've got so many amazing, talented agents, and they just love to add value and give back, and that's really what Expert Mentors Live is about. And for those of you watching, we were in New Orleans. I know a lot of you were probably traveling. And, man, it was just really cool to connect with everybody. We appreciate all the feedback, appreciate all the love for you guys that reached out, and we were able to make the connections in New Orleans. And, we're going to keep rocking and rolling with this. And really, if you're interested, you want to become an expert mentor and jump on one of these shows with us, man, just reach out to me. We'll get you in the lineup and let you add some massive value. So cool. So like I said, we're jumping in with Jeff. So I'm going to turn it over to you, brother, and let you take off running with us here. And I'm going to get right to the meat.
All right. Great. And a couple things I wanted to share too is to remind everybody, and I'm just going to swap my screen here real quick, but I want to remind everybody who's interested in growing and getting better at converting on the telephone specifically, although a lot of the stuff we talk about works whether you're in front of somebody or talking to somebody on the phone. And one of those things that I wanted to share with y'all is our Shot Caller Role Play Mastery group on Facebook. And so anybody who's interested in engaging with a group that's like-minded and trying to get better and practicing their scripts and going over objections and all that stuff, join the Shot Caller Role Play group on Facebook every Friday. Wally Bressler and myself jump on a call from 2 to 3 o'clock, and we get fully immersed. We have people that are uploading call recordings of their own that we review and provide feedback on. There's a dashboard where everybody can see where everybody's at on dials, contacts, nurtures, appointments set. It's really cool. We have a new Shot Callers library where every month I'll be sharing with you the audiobooks that I'm listening to in what I call my AU, Automobile University. Something a long time ago, I had a buddy who was like, on the way to work or something, he always, man, I'm in AU, dude. I'm like, what is that? He's like, every morning on the way to work, man, Automobile University, I'm getting smarter. And so I adopted that and I'll share with you guys what I'm reading every month. Literally, I'm giving you guys a secret copy of like the MP3, so Shot Callers only. This month's last book was The Way of the Wolf by Jordan Belfort. Just finished it like 2 days ago. It was awesome stuff. If none of you guys are familiar with the straight line sales system or any of the psychology that goes along with that, it's a great book to get introduced to it. And we'll have a new book coming out next month. Also, we're actually having a lot of success with our ISA team here calling leads for agents that are currently using conversion. And so I just wanted to let everybody know that if you have an inbound lead source that's generating at least 50 leads a month or more, if you're not generating at least 50 leads a month, then I would say that it's better time and money spent on you finding a more efficient way for you to respond to those leads. But if you're generating 50 or more leads a month, then there's a good chance that we can help you increase the conversion so that whatever you're spending every month to generate those leads, you start making more return on. And you can go to agentlivetransfer.com and get some more information on that. But we are working with agents who currently are with EXP and therefore have made a transition to conversion. We're working with agents who have decided not to go that route and are using everything under the sun. But the key for our ISAs is to contact those leads on your behalf immediately within the first 5 minutes, which would drive our contact rate up to 30–40%, and then get you on the phone with those that are wanting to do something now. So it sounds something like, great, let me get John on the phone for you. I know he'd be eager to help. Hold on, boom. And I call John up and say, I've got John Smith on the line. Here's what they're looking to do. I'm going to connect you now. Is that all right? And our goal is to get you on the phone with as many of those live leads as we can that are qualified. So go to Agent Live Transfer again if you want more information on that. We are having good results from agents or for agents, and I'm hearing it all the time, so that's why I wanted to bring that up. But beyond that, moving to a more exciting topic, our questions, I don't know if it's more exciting. How about it's aligned with it? It's the same. It's what we do in our office, and here's what you can do. Honest to God, it's cheaper for you to do it and become better at it than it is to pay me. I mean, full disclosure. If you can make the calls and be good at it, don't pay me to. I'd rather you have your team doing it, and that's always not you, but you got to have the information to disseminate to the team. So questions to close, just to kind of review real quickly some of the things that we went over on the first call. You'll notice, although you might be under the impression that this is all about questions to close a deal, like what is it going to take for you and I to do business? It's not. It's, in addition to some of those things, also more about the questions that you need to be asking yourself to make sure that you're moving down the line, so to speak, closer to closing the deal or closer to doing business. So there's questions we can ask ourselves. And then there's some questions that we can ask prospects. But starting off with ourselves, making sure that we're in the right mindset, making sure that our appearance is correct, that we've prepared correctly, that we have a plan. Those things are super important. When we're talking to prospects, we want to make sure that we understand. We've included some tips to help your understanding. But, start with broad questions, get specific, focus on desired benefits, maintain a consultative attitude as opposed to a salesperson. All tips that can help you better understand your prospect, help you better ask questions. We went over some really amazing statistics that were discovered through a study about how important it is when asking questions and how it relates to actually closing the deal. And so you definitely want to review some of this stuff. One of the most interesting things here, I think, was these stats here to the side. The study found that the most effective discovery calls uncover between 3 or 4 business problems. You can replace business for your prospects' problems, whether it's overhead, whether it's location, whether it's convenience, right? All those things are desired amenities in purchasing or selling, which means moving, to a new area. So see if you can discuss 3 or 4 problems or 3 or 4 desires that your prospect might want. Talk less, listen more. I don't need to spend a whole bunch of time on that. I know everybody on this call has heard that more times than they want to, but you could probably still listen a little bit more. The motive profile, make sure you understand. Before I go asking John to buy a car or to list his home with me, it might be a good idea to see if he's interested in a 4-door or a 2-door, or is he interested in a truck, or hell, maybe the guy's driving loads across America and he wants a semi. Be less eager to sell the deal and be more interested in understanding what your customer wants and understanding what their profile is. And then once John tells me what he wants, I'd be interested to know how he goes about making decisions typically. And that's where you get into some really important things like who's the decision maker, what's important to them, what's their time frame, what potentially could delay the decision. What's it going to do for them if they did say yes? What would it do if they said no? What are the absolute deal breakers? Here's some great material for you to start that conversation and make sure that those don't get left undiscussed. Those are what will come up and kill a deal later, for sure. Where we left off last week was right here at asking for the business. This is the #1 culprit. This is the, serial killer of sales right here. This is a serial killer. More sales have been killed by this right here than Ted Bundy.
Than asking for it, right?
And the problem is that everybody on the other end of this call is guilty of one, if not more, of those bits, because there's been a point when you should have asked for the business. You had somebody at the point where they knew, liked, and trust you. You had somebody at the point where they believed in your system and your process. You had somebody to the point where they actually thought you could back it up. You and your company could back up the results. And you waited for them to say, you've got me there and I'm ready to go. Do you have the paperwork with you? How many times have you had that? Did you bring the paperwork with you? Can we write this thing up? I've got my pen ready.
Right.
Now, you have to ask for it. And for a lot of salespeople, it's the most uncomfortable part of the process. And isn't that right, Jonker? Yeah. Ask for the business, but it's the most important part of the process. You always got to ask for the sale, right? Never settle for, they're going to call me back. I got that one done. Oh, they trust me. Oh, they're definitely going to list with me. They're going to call me tomorrow. They're going to call. Oh, they said they're going to call me later. But never settle for that. Even if that's got to be the result, at least ask for the commitment. Ask for, do you think that there's a chance that you and I will have an opportunity to work for you? Based on what we've discussed so far, do you think that you would move forward? You've got to at least get some sort of commitment and ask for an order there in all situations. And while I say that you need to do it in all situations, I also want to make sure to make a distinction that asking for business at the wrong time can be just as bad as not asking for it at all. And so it's important to recognize when to ask for the business. If Matt Jonker here had called me up and I had never talked to him before, didn't know him from on the street, and said, hey, I've got this deal. Are you ready to buy or what? Because I'm not going to call you again. Whoa, that's the wrong time to be asking for the business. I noticed that your property expired. So when are you going to get ready and list it with somebody who can actually sell it this time? Whoa, buddy, what was your name again? Who are you with? That would be an example of the wrong time to ask for a business. So while you always want to be asking for the business, you need to be aware that asking for it at the wrong time can be more detrimental than not asking for it at all. And the first thing that you want to ask yourself, and the first barometer on whether or not you're in a position where you should be asking for the business, is, do they like you, right? And do they trust you? We've all heard that they need to know, trust, and like you in order for them to make a decision or to do business with you. It's actually a few more things than just that, but you can think of it on a 0 to 10 scale. And you need to be somewhere in that 8 to 10 level, really, to have somebody be in a sales ready position when it comes to the like you category. Sure. And some of the ways that you can do that are asking questions, and I put sincere there in all caps because it's important that you ask sincere questions and not just ask questions that are part of your sales process. You know what I mean? And you ask them without any kind of empathy. You ask them with no effective tonality. And it just sounds like maybe you're watching TV at the same time you're rattling off questions that you've become so robotic with, you don't even realize it.
Right. You have to be genuine.
So be sincere in the questions. Show sincere interest. If you don't have sincere interest in helping the person you're talking to, then go, down the road and work somewhere else. Your prospect deserves better. You deserve better if you're going to spend time in an industry that provides you so much opportunity to help so many people. So if you don't care, then, get out. And listen to hear, not to speak. Everyone listens. I get it. Everyone listens. We're all great listeners, but repeat what I said. How many times is there miscommunication caused from people that said, I'm listening, I heard you. No, you didn't, because you were just listening to wait for your opportunity to speak. You did not take the time to stop and resist the urge to speak and actually employ more effort in understanding what I said. That might sound like, wow, do I really understand what Kitchens is saying right now? What is he trying to tell me? the inner dialogue that's going on in your mind when you become an effective listener is just that. Questions like that. One of the interesting things I found in doing some research for this call was a study that had been done on most effective ways to get people to trust you real quickly. And I included a link for it at the end of this document. But it talked about a study that was done where viewers watched people taking a test. And let's just say it was a 100-question test. And then they were asked, there were 4 candidates that took the test. And at the end, they were asked who they liked better. Well, long story short, you can read the whole deal. But long story short, one of those candidates who did not score the highest and had not everything going for him, but at the end of the test, they spilt their coffee. They spilt their coffee. Now, the audience couldn't even have a visual. They didn't see a video. They heard audio. And what they heard was the person spill their coffee, sound kind of, befuddled, and, oh, I can't spill coffee all over my new suit. At the end of the deal, it was that person who actually did not score the highest on the test, didn't have the best resume, et cetera. If that person is the one that was liked better. The point being is that they showed vulnerability. Okay, think about that in your life. Like, that's the quickest way to build trust is be vulnerable. Trip in front of somebody. I'm being ridiculous. But think about when that happens. Like, you immediately just became best friends with that person. Why? You know what I mean? We open the door for people when I'm going into a restaurant. Immediately. Me and him are best buds. If I sit down next to Kitchens at the bar and say, how about them Cowboys, huh? Boom, immediately. We're best buds. I'm vulnerable. This guy's sitting here by himself. Let me, vulnerability. Admitting your mistakes. Sharing times when maybe you screwed up. Admitting that, I don't know. Asking them, do you know? That's something I don't know. Can you share with me what you might know about that? Little things like that really go a long way in building trust. Sharing your experiences, and then finding and anchoring common bonds and traits. So that would mean, like Cowboys, when I'm talking to Kitchens, if he was wearing a Cowboys shirt, I can start talking about the Cowboys. Who's your favorite player, Kitchens? Oh, that's mine too. You see what we did right there? We just anchored our bond. If he said he likes fishing, what do you fish with? Oh man, I have this kind of boat. Have you ever been on one of those? It's not just saying I fish also. It's saying I fish also. What's your favorite fish, John? Right. And then when he tells me his, I like this fish. Have you ever caught one of those? It's that anchors the common bond. Not just saying, oh, I'm an OU fan too. Oh, I like hunting too. Right? That can so easily be perceived as insincere and BS because every other salesperson is doing that. I've heard people say the craziest things just to ask to their prospect because they think it's going to get them somewhere. It's the sincerity and the authenticity, right, that works. It's not the act of it.
It is being genuinely interested, right? That is you have to come across that you are genuinely interested for this to work. But those are, man, there was great nuggets in there.
I'm going to I got to switch my speaker real quick, Kitch. Just take me 1 second here.
Okay, cool.
Although you guys can hear me, my audio's messed up.
Cool. If you guys have any questions as we're going along for Jeff, throw it in the Q&A or throw it in the chat. And, if you're listening to the recording of this, man, throw it into the Facebook group, comment on the link, and we'll definitely get you squared away. Can you guys hear Jeff? No, can't hear you, bud.
All right, Give me 1 second.
Ah, there you are. Got him. No, we lost him. All right, he's going to jump back in just a second. There we go.
All right, you guys can hear me now?
Yeah. All right, good.
Perfect.
Sweet.
My apologies. All right. So as I said, being the expert is the next thing that's going to be most important. Once you've gotten that trust up to an 8, 10, the likability up to an 8 and 10, all right, I know I'm good to go on that. Next thing is, do they consider me an expert? Because they need to consider you an expert in their eyes. Mind you, it doesn't mean that you need to have been in the business for 20 years, right? Experience improves your expertise, hopefully. A lot of us know people that have been in an industry, whatever it might be, for a long time and still ain't experts. So at the same time, experience does not equal expertise. However, it helps, but it's not required, right? So anybody who says I'm a new agent or I don't have 10 years on me like my competitor does, it doesn't matter. That's something you need to get out of your head. You can become an expert by attending these calls every Wednesday. You can become an expert by investing time into learning your craft. Your competitors likely have spent 10 years doing business, not learning the business. Big difference, right? In that doing the business, as we know, probably isn't a lot when you consider the average agent across the country is selling less than 10 homes a year. So when we're trying to establish expertise, there's some language that we can use that will help you get started. An exercise that I would do, guys, is take each one of these bullet pointed sentences and then finish them off. When you get the 3 dots, you finish them off with what fits for you. So if I was talking to Kitchens and I really wanted to raise his level of consideration of me and an expert, I could say something like, you know, John, in my career, I've been recognized as, you know, the top performer, the #1 real estate agent in this market. I've been recognized as an expert negotiator, and recognized as one of the top real estate professionals across the nation. Whatever fits for you, in my career, I have been recognized as blank. Also, my highest priority when working with somebody like you is, and whatever fills in the blank there. If you've done a good job listening, then you should know what's probably the best fit there, right? Because you know your customer, you know their profile. Also stuff like I've had the honor of receiving, I've had the honor of being invited to, I've had the honor to speak at, I've had the honor to help tons of people just like you. I take great pride in my ability to blank, right? I take great pride in my ability to market each and every property that we represent so that we gain the most exposure. And what that's going to do for you is put you in a position to get the most amount of money when it comes to the sale. That's just an example. Again, take these and finish them off. I take great pride in my ability to. And then my past clients have referred to me as, right? Some of my past clients have referred to me as super responsive, as making the process go simpler than they've ever had it gone before. You know, whatever you think fits there. So do they consider you an expert? The third thing is, can you actually do what you're claiming to do, right? Can you back it up? In other words, they need to be certain. Now they know you, they like you, they trust you, they believe that you believe what you're saying. They think you're an expert, you know your stuff, sounds like it. Sounds like, you know, you've been recognized, got some awards, whatever the case is. Can you actually back it up for them? Can you get the results for them that they want? And that all comes down to certainty. And again, in doing some research, I was refamiliarized with these 4 different types of certainty. And this is going to be something that is worth you spending 10 minutes to read, guys. I'm going to include a link at the end here that'll take you to this article. It was done by Harvard Business Review and really lays these 4 levels of certainty out in a really easy to understand way. And the first is consensus. Consensus certainty would be, for instance, the theory that people are made more certain, or are it's easier to build more certainty when you can show them other people share the same certainty. So your testimonials, for instance, social proof, stuff like that. It's easier for me as a consumer to be more certain about my decision if I see other people that I consider like me share the same certainty, right? So that's consensus certainty. Your testimonials, the videos of people that you've helped, the stories that you share about that person who had a property expire with an agent and you turned around and got it sold for them in 45 days at full ask, whatever the case is. The next level of certainty is repetition. And this works both ways. And what it means is that the more your consumer, right, or your customer repeats their beliefs, the more convicted and certain they become in them. So if you can get the person you're talking to repeat the advantages that they see maybe in the process that you're describing, or you can get them to say something along the lines of, yeah, the more people that see my property, I guess the more money that I get. If you can get them to repeat that, then the more certain they are about the idea, and the more certain they are about making the decision with you if you're the person that can get that done, right? And so repetition increases certainty. At the same time, if you kept asking them, do you think this is good? They say no. Do you think this is good? And they say no. You see what they're doing is they're increasing their certainty that they're right about saying no. Similar to the yes momentum philosophy, right? As we build, it would get yeses, they become more certain. So that's repetition. Third is ease. Again, 4 levels of certainty. Ease is level number 3. And I have said this for years in a different way, and that is keep it simple. Confusion loses deals every day, right? You need to explain things in a way so that a 5th grader could understand. Simple, keep it simple, stupid. It's been said a million different ways. And now there's science actually to back up what we've all kind of known.
Make it speak over their head. You're right. Do not speak over their head.
Oh, trade terminology, stuff like this, the worst. I was having one of the ISAs send out a text, real world example, yesterday, and the text was going to say something like, hi, I noticed you had your property listed on the MLS recently. Are you still interested in selling the property? If that ain't a freaking agent, I don't know what is. Obviously, we're contacting on behalf of an agent, but the purpose of that engagement is to not win the listing, right? It's to win an opportunity to talk. And for that, I'd rather them not know that I'm an agent, or I'd rather there be some mystery about who it was. And so all we did is change, I think, 2 words. We changed, instead of you had your property listed on the MLS, we just said, we saw your property for sale recently. And then instead of asking if they were still interested in selling the property, we said, are they still thinking of selling? And although, it may not seem like a big deal, it is. And it's those little words that we use that make us appear to be up here and the prospect here. And they don't want to deal with that. They want to deal with somebody who's here on your same level. Why does everybody love Donald Trump? Not everybody does. But because although he's up here, he seems like he's right here with you. Like he seems like he's the dude I just sat with at the bar. Kitchens and I were having our beer, and he came and sat down next to us and said, how about them Redskins or something?
Right. Yeah, it's true. It is. I mean, it really is. I mean, it's so spot on, right? If you speak over their head, they're definitely not going to be certain about you.
Yeah, confusion does not create certainty. It creates uncertainty. People will not make a decision when they're uncertain. Think about all the deals that you've lost because they need to think about it. There's either one of 2 things. They didn't trust you, right? Or they weren't certain that you could get the job done. So maybe you should have spent more time on expertise and building the image of you being the expert, or you needed to spend some more time building rapport. That's why you know, you need to recognize this stuff, because if I was to close too hard and push somebody too hard, I immediately lose all that rapport and everything I built. And it's really, really hard to get it back at that point. And so there are some cases where it's better off to say, you know what, John, I understand. Why don't we do this? Why don't I send you some information so that you can take a look at it over the next couple days, and then I'll follow back up with you, and we'll see where it goes from there. Fair enough? And you're going to be much better off by taking that route, and yes, making a second call or a third call, but we'll stay in rapport, we'll build momentum, we'll continue to build rapport, and you need to be conscious of that. Otherwise, pushing that person too hard, you will lose them. So the next, to finish up the 4 levels of certainty, the next one is defense. Similar, I guess, to repetition. Defense is that when people defend their position, they become more certain about it, right? So when they defend their position, if for instance, the raving fan, you know, we have a great training program that's the raving fan, and how to get your past client base to really start to create opportunity for you because they love you so much. That's an example of defense on somebody who's already fallen in love and likes your product, right? If they liked your product already and they meet somebody else who starts to talk negatively about it, they'll defend your product. You see it all the time in social threads on Facebook and whatnot. People will defend, right, what they've kind of already invested emotionally, a positive emotion into. And so one of the examples that was described by companies using that is simple survey techniques by asking about their experience, and not just sending out one survey, let's say 30 days after you help somebody purchase a new home, asking them about their experience, but then continuing that, and the next 30 days sending them another survey that might ask something different, but result in a positive affirmation on their end, right? And as they do that multiple times, you're causing them to defend their positive experience, and it's going to put them in a much more likely mindset probably to refer you when they were to meet somebody, or to stick up for you when somebody says, I have an agent already. No, you got to use John. You got to use John, right? And so what you'll read when you visit this Harvard Business Review article is very few companies actually consciously employ marketing and organize their sales efforts around these 4 levels of certainty. So start with just acknowledging and being conscious that they exist. Just start with acknowledging that these 4 levels exist. And that'll be step 1. And then that'll cause you to, as you interact with people, to start like measuring the levels. And that's what it is, guys. Got to measure it on the scale. How much they like me. If they don't like you yet, and you don't feel like you have a lot of rapport, then don't ask for the business. If you haven't established that you're the expert yet, then don't ask for the business. And if you don't feel that they're at a level of certainty, 8 to 10, then don't ask for the business. It doesn't mean you hang up or that you let the sale go. It means that you continue to build in the categories that you need to build to, and if it takes another call, then you do so. But when you get everything lined up, so you're hitting on all cylinders, and I've got an 8 to 10 that they like me, I've got an 8 to 10 that they think I'm the expert, and I got an 8 to 10 on their certainty, you will close 70% or more of those people, for sure. So how to transition to the close is the last thing that we're going to wrap up with on this call. And again, as I mentioned, this is going to roll into it. I really like doing this stuff, and it's important enough that, you know, I don't want to just simplify it too much and cram it into a few things. We're going to spend the time to do it justice. So how to transition to the close. It's important to make a smooth transition when moving into your closing language patterns. I'll fix this slide when I get it out, but I want to point out language patterns, guys. Language patterns. Anybody who joins that Shot Collar Roleplay group that I showed earlier is going to get a copy audio to be able to listen to that Way of the Wolf book, and you'll hear him talk a lot about language patterns. Language patterns are, for instance, anybody who's familiar with our NAEA training and an expert advisor. A language pattern would be, we have a proven repeatable system backed by market research that helps our clients get up to 18% more money when selling their home than the traditional methods used by most agents. That's a language pattern. Once I know that language pattern, boom, like the back of my hand, I can insert it at any particular point in time that I want. So you have to create, and then you have to memorize and internalize your language patterns, sometimes called scripts. You don't use scripts? Well, use language patterns then. You know what I mean? And they can be used in person as well, right? If this is how you become really effective in person, your listing presentation is full of language patterns, and you need to memorize it and have it nailed just like it was a script. So some ways to make a smooth transition, right? And you don't just want to go from, so, you don't want to say, I've been recognized, John, as one of the top agents in this particular marketplace and so on. I've helped a lot of people like you. So let's do business. That's not a smooth transition, right? A smooth transition would start with some language. I'd suggest, again, you do the same exercise we mentioned before. Take these and then finish off the sentence. And then keep this stuff in front of you so you can actually implement it. But a smooth transition might sound something like, can I make a suggestion? And then you allow them to answer, and you move forward with whatever you've filled in there with the blank. Also, it could sound something like, why don't we do this? Why don't we do this? It's really, really important, guys, and we're going to have a whole nother chapter, a whole nother section. That's why this is going to continue on tonality, because it's really important to use effective tonality when you get to this back end part of the call, because you're getting to the point where you have rapport built, they like you, they know you're the expert, and now you're going to ask them to make some decisions. And that's where there's a tendency for them to start to backpedal, and tonality is going to be the grease on the wheel. It's going to help you get them over the hump. So when I say, why don't we do this? It's not, why don't we do this? It's, why don't we do this? No big deal. Reasonable tone. What's the worst? Why don't we try this? Right? Also, it could sound like, it sounds like, I'm sorry, I got to change the spelling there. It says I. It sounds like you and I are on the same page, John. All we have to do now is, actually the tonality would be a little bit different there. It sounds like you and I are on the same page, John. All we have to do now is, boom. It sounds like you and I are on the same page, John. All we have to do now is, boom. And then you'd outline, the steps that I need to get started. Okay, this agreement, and I need to schedule the photographer who could be out here tomorrow. Would tomorrow work for you? Or another option is, what I recommend we do next is, and this is a transition. Remember, so, we were building rapport. We built our level of expertise. We understood that they were certain by asking some questions around that and getting some confirmation there. And so at that stage, you're at the point where you need to transition to asking them for business. So any one of these ways would work. After your question or after your statement, right, you move into one of these. Can I make a suggestion? Or why don't we do this? What I would recommend we do next is. Those kind of things will make it much easier for you if you feel sometimes like it's difficult to ask for the order because you feel like there's no, soft way to get to it, and you kind of just feel like it's coming out of nowhere, or you feel like it's pressure. If you feel like that's the case, then you just need to use a little smoother language pattern and transition to get into that discussion, and it'll make things a lot easier for you. So in finishing up, this slide deck will go out. That'll be available for everybody. These are all the links to the resources we talked about on the first call, and then here are the links to the resources that we talked about on this call, this being the 4 levels of certainty, and then this one here, the thing I said about the coffee, which was so interesting. The guy who spilled coffee on him, and it made him more likable.
That's
interesting. And then don't forget to join the Shot Caller Roleplay group. Now I'm just going to spill my coffee on me.
That's awesome, man. No, that is interesting. Just how.
So that's all I got, John. I appreciate you having me on. This is fun. What do you think?
I love it, man. It's definitely love to continue the conversation, continue to build on this, because this is it's fantastic, right? And I love giving it to everybody in little bite-sized chunks so we can take it and really incorporate it and use it in the day-to-day. And for sure, man, if you guys want to increase, if you're serious about increasing your skill set, you've got to get in that shot caller group. Just with what you guys are doing and just the interaction and the opportunity that everybody has for free, they need to take advantage of it. So it definitely is. It's definitely gold, man. I had a one nugget that you shared earlier that I think is really key, even in people's leadership capabilities, is being aware and mindful of how people make decisions. Right? You talked a little bit about that, but that principle even applies to leadership and leading your team, and even thinking about it in negotiation terms further down the road in the process, right? Is just really trying to understand how people make decisions, and being sensitive to that are some of the key character traits to develop as you guys are also growing as leaders with your team and within your organization, within your community. So that's just a principle that applies across many different facets.
Yeah. And can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I want to say on that, just remember, like, everybody's running their own dialogue. There's alternative dialogues. And so as you're saying something, whoever you're talking to is running two different dialogues, a good and a bad, right? Especially in a sales position. As somebody is considering whether or not to do business with you or to purchase a product, they have two dialogues that are running at the exact same time. What is the best that can happen if I said yes? And what's the worst that can happen if I said no, right? At the core, they're running those two dialogues in their head at the same time, and that's going to determine their action threshold. Some people have a really low action threshold, and I just see all the positive, and I don't even see the negative. Other people have a really high action threshold, and they see all the negative and not so much the positive. And whether it's sales or interacting with anybody in life, I have another book I'm reading to be a better communicator in my own personal relationships right now. And in my AU session this morning on the way to work, it was talking about just that, and how important it is really to stop and listen and ask yourself why you're feeling what you're feeling, to think about what the other person is feeling when they're saying, to think about how what I'm about to say could affect them, right? And the end result, like if we want somebody to ultimately exit out of this interaction happy, then what would be conducive to that? What I feel I want, my emotion, doesn't matter.
Mm-mm.
Right? My urge to defend my position and my honor and I'm right and who cares if the objection is for them to leave feeling happy? Then I'd be better off sucking it up. And I guess it ain't that important that I'm right, is it? Because the goal isn't for me to be right here. And so when you're communicating with your team or clients, they're running a dialogue in their head. Everything you say, they're going, And so just say stuff that will allow them to run a positive dialogue. Yeah. It's not rocket science. It's just that most people don't stop to think about, how could I say this so that he'll run a positive dialogue? He or she will feel positive about this interaction. How can I phrase it so that they'll feel positive about it? Usually we're reacting emotionally with no filter, and we only think after the fact about, oh, that probably came out harsh.
always easier to figure it out after the fact, right?
Yeah.
No, it's good stuff, man. I appreciate it. I really appreciate you taking the time, jumping back in. I'm looking forward to the next time we get to make this happen. And absolute gold as always. I appreciate you. I appreciate you guys jumping in. If you're listening to the call with us live, give some love to Jeff, and any questions that you guys have, throw it in there. If you're listening to the recording, absolutely still share, give some love. What are your biggest takeaways? And then also, if you have questions, just feel free to reach out and we'll get them taken care of for you, man. Jeff, I appreciate you, brother.
I appreciate you. Thank you, John. And thank you for everybody who's on the call and watching this later.
Sweet. We'll see you.